The year was 1929, and America was riding high on what many called the Roaring Twenties. Cities pulsed with jazz, nightclubs glittered with champagne, cars crowded the streets, radios filled homes with music and news. The future seemed unstoppable, a golden age of prosperity. Wall Street, the beating heart of American finance, symbolized it all. Stock prices soared, fortunes were made overnight, and ordinary citizens, farmers, teachers, shopkeepers, poured their savings into the market, convinced it was a ticket to easy wealth. The New York Stock Exchange on Broad Street became a temple of dreams. Brokers barked orders across the trading floor as the ticker tape machine clattered endlessly, spitting out numbers rising higher and higher. Newspapers called it the new era. Economists claimed the boom would never end. People mortgaged homes, borrowed from banks, and bought stocks on margin, meaning they could control thousands of dollars worth of shares with only a small down payment, trusting that prices would always climb. The frenzy was electric, intoxicating, and blind. But beneath the glitter, cracks spread quietly. Agricultural prices had been falling for years. Factories produced more goods than people could buy. Wages did not keep pace with profits. Credit ballooned. Still, the market climbed, and greed silenced caution. It was as if America danced on the edge of a cliff without realizing the ground beneath was crumbling. By early autumn of 1929, storm clouds gathered. September saw sudden dips in the market. A few wary investors began to sell, taking profits while they could. But many believed the slump was temporary. Then came October. On Thursday, October 24th, later known as Black Thursday, panic rippled across Wall Street. Prices plunged. In just hours, billions of dollars in paper wealth evaporated. Crowds gathered outside the stock exchange, staring at the building as if it were a burning house. Police were called to control the masses. Yet, by the end of the day, a group of powerful bankers tried to calm the storm. They pooled resources, buying up blue-chip stocks to show confidence. For a brief moment, the market steadied. Newspapers reassured the public that the worst was over. Hope flickered. But hope was a candle against a hurricane. On Monday, October 28th, the bottom fell out. Panic selling erupted. Ticker tape machines, overwhelmed by the sheer volume of trades, ran hours behind. Investors had no idea what their stocks were worth until long after they had sold them, often at devastating losses. People begged brokers to stop the fall, but no one could. The market was a wild animal, uncontrollable, devouring everything in its path. The next day, October 29th, became immortalized as Black Tuesday. The trading floor turned into a storm of chaos. Men shouted, waved papers, tore at their collars in despair. The ticker ran all day, printing endless streams of plunging numbers. In a single day, more than 16 million shares were traded, a record that would stand for decades. By the closing bell, billions more in wealth had been wiped away. Some stocks that had once made men rich were now worthless scraps of paper. Outside, the city vibrated with fear. Crowds packed Wall Street, watching history unravel. Rumors spread of men leaping from skyscraper windows, though many of those stories were exaggerated. Still, suicides did rise in the weeks and months that followed. Families lost everything. Savings disappeared. A lifetime of work could vanish in a single morning. The crash did not end in a day or even a week. The market continued to slide for years, bottoming out in 1932. By then, stocks had lost nearly 90% of their value. What began as a financial collapse spread like a contagion into every corner of life. Banks failed by the thousands, wiping out the savings of ordinary Americans. Factories closed their doors. Breadlines formed in cities as unemployment soared. Farmers saw crops rot in the fields while families starved. Across the nation, the dream of prosperity curdled into despair. And it was not confined to America. The crash ricocheted around the world. European economies, already weakened by the debts and destruction of World War I, crumbled under the strain. International trade collapsed. Unemployment and poverty spread like a plague. The political consequences were immense. In Germany, economic misery fueled extremism, laying fertile ground for Adolf Hitler and the Nazi Party to rise to power. The reverberations of the Wall Street crash reached far beyond finance. It altered the destiny of nations. The search for causes never ended. Some blamed reckless speculation, others the Federal Reserve, others the structure of capitalism itself. The truth lay in a toxic cocktail of greed, overconfidence, and systemic weakness. The stock market had been a bubble inflated by dreams and debt, and like all bubbles, it eventually burst. For those who lived through it, the memory of October 1929 was seared into their souls. Ordinary people who had once trusted in the endless rise of stocks became wary of banks, wary of risk, wary of promises that seemed too good to be true. For a generation, the fear of another collapse haunted America. The crash also reshaped government. In the years that followed, Franklin D. Roosevelt introduced sweeping reforms to stabilize the economy, Social Security, banking regulations, public works programs. These changes did not erase the trauma, but they built guardrails to prevent such chaos from happening again. Yet even today, the ghost of 1929 lingers whenever markets falter. The Wall Street crash of 1929 was more than numbers falling on a ticker tape. It was the shattering of illusions, the sudden collapse of confidence, the exposure of how fragile prosperity can be. In the roar of that October storm, millions learned a brutal truth, that wealth built on speculation is wealth built on sand. And so, in the span of a week, the world fell apart, not from bombs or bullets, but from the quiet, relentless panic of men selling paper in a building on Broad Street, each desperate to save himself, and in doing so, bringing ruin to all.